Hello, Instant Challenge Appraisers for 2019. I'm Casey Quayle, the Challenge Master for Instant Challenge for the Central Sound Tournament. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for listening in and getting ready to do this. You are the face of the tournament to everybody that takes part of it. And today we're going to kick off the process of getting you up to speed for what we need to do in order for our part of the tournament to be successful. I'm not going to spend a lot of time uh, marketing DI. The fact that you're here, you're listening to this, you've looked at the literature, you've gotten involved in the program, or whoever nominated you for this position convinced you that it was a worthwhile thing for you to do. So I'm just going to assume that you're bought in, and we're just gonna jump right in and start doing things by first looking at the particulars for this year's tournament. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about my overall philosophy about how we configure Instant Challenge and present it to the teams. Um, and then we'll spend a good amount of time talking about the various roles and responsibilities that of each of the appraisers will the hats that the appraisers will wear for RC, because each of us will be doing slightly different things. We've got a good number of teams to process this year, which is really exciting. I'm super happy about this. For Instant Challenge, every single team will go through Instant Challenge. So we'll have a full day. There will be parallel sessions, IC rooms going on most of the day, and in those each room will see on average 13 teams, some a little less, some a little more. It'll be a full day. As right now, I'm encourage you to plan on being on site 7 o'clock in the morning. The tournament will kick off at 8 or just a tad after, and there's a lot of prep work that you'll have to involved in that hour interim. That first hour is a busy hour. So the general rule of thumb: plan on being here 7 to 4, 2-3 days before the tournament. I'll mail out specific assignments, and along with that, any adjustments to your schedule. Most of them will be, you don't have to be here till like 7:20, or maybe for a few of you, maybe a little bit before 7. That I don't think we'll be able to get into the building before 7, so I think 7's the hard start for us. We've got basically, I think, a dual mandate in as appraisers in general at DI, and particularly what we want to do in IC. One of them is, I think the most important is, this tournament has to be a celebration. If you've been watching a team over the year, you know that they've spent a lot of time, have gone to a lot of meetings. They've tapped on their social structure, their support system to get to this point, and we want the kids that are participating and the parents to have a really great positive concluding experience. For many of them, this will be the end of their DI or the DI year. So we want to take every opportunity we can is to celebrate with them the accomplishments that they have made, and compliment them on getting here. During the course of the day, there will be some letdowns, and it's up to us as the network around the kids uh, to be empathetic and help them be more appreciate what they've done. Um, I guess one of the things that we would really like to do is make sure that I call them serial participants. That is, see the same kids over and over and over, planting the seeds for future success, if you will. You see some really remarkable teams go through the DI program, and the most remarkable ones are the ones comprised of the high school, the senior level kids, in the seniors of home that started out as an elementary team. They just do really phenomenal kinds of things. So just saying to a team, I'll see you next year, and getting a positive reaction for them goes a long way in helping them to come back. While we're doing here, we want to emphasize the journey. This is a process-oriented program, not necessarily a destination or yeah, destinations in the thing. An end goal. It's more than a trophy. I had 3 kids go through DI. All of them were on multiple teams that advanced to global finals. Not a single one of them or their teammates can tell you where any of the hardware that they accumulated over that tenure is located. They can't find the certificates that they got at the end of the year. But they will get together with their old teammates, and they will talk endlessly about the experiences and the various bonding experiences they had along the way. So, emphasizing that kind of importance, the process of the program is very important. However, the flip side of the dual mandate is that it indeed is a competition. Somebody's going to advance to the next level. Maybe 2 teams in some particular vein, but it is a there will be a winner. To that end, we need to be fair and objective, both fair to the winners and fair to the people that don't. That means being consistent with the way that we give them points. Well, the phrase is, we give a team as many points as we can as we're evaluating them, but no more than they deserve. There's a number of questions that come up over and over every year. I want the whole tournament experience to be as positive for the appraisal team as it is for the kids. So, if you have a question, you have a request, you have a need, talk to me. We'll see what we can work out. Some of the popular, most common questions is, can I see my child perform? It's maybe, but no promises, and it's very slim. We have a tight schedule that we've got to keep, and you may be tied up by the time that they go on stage. What I will do along this thing is, once I have an idea in my head about how I'm going to bucket appraisers, I will look at the Central Challenge schedule and try to slot people into IC rooms where the Central Challenge presentation happens during your lunch break. And if that's possible, I will certainly do that. Because I'd love for you to be able to go see them do their thing, and I appreciate the sacrifice that you're making to be here with us. Can I work with a friend? Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to accommodate you. I can't put 10 people into one IC room, to an extreme. But if I can load balance out my rooms, I'll be glad to do that. And I've had a pair of parents job share once. As long as there's some flexibility of when one phases out and the other one comes in, we can probably make it work. Just talk to me, and um, uh, I'll be happy. I'll be happy to try to move this along. Um, and basically, there there is uh, we have our own instant challenges. Uh, we don't know what's going to happen. Murphy's Law will show up on the tournament day. Goodness knows we might have another snow event by then. Uh, People are running late. Um, there's a delay in one of the central challenges that propagates to us. Basically, we need to be ready to accommodate uh, these kinds of things with a smile and just address it. Just keep things moving and be happy about it. So how do we do this? Well, on tournament day, I want the individual people in the rooms, the IC rooms, those teams, to be as an autonomous group as possible. Um, I, I would like the ones that are working basically in the I call them the heroic roles, which are doing support for everybody else, to be very independent. Basically, my role on tournament day is to be a cheerleader to you, to troubleshoot the unique problems that come up, and basically make sure that nothing is preventing you from doing your job. So that's how we do our teamwork, our preparation. That's uh, what we're getting ready to do here. We want everybody to know their job. We'll communicate with one another as we're going along, and with respect to the kinds of problems that I mentioned before, we will just take we'll just approach them with flexibility. So just exactly what are our roles that we're going to have? I break them into two categories. The challenge appraisers are the ones that are actually in the room, and in the outside of the rooms, we have what are called the heroic appraisers. The people in the room are the ones that write numbers on paper, assign points, and so forth. The heroic appraisers are the ones that make sure everything is working as anticipated, and these are probably the most important roles on the team. I've heard of multiple stories where the kindness of one of the appraisers, particularly in holding or chill out, had a really lasting effect on one of the kids in that went through the program. Um, so we'll talk about each of these various roles in turn. Um, the process of a team that progresses through Instant Challenge looks pretty much like this flow chart. It can happen before the team has done their central challenge. Typically, that happens earlier in the day, or it can happen after they've gone through their central challenge. In any respect, they'll check in at a front desk. IC is basically a dark to the outer to the outer public. This hallway, which is a black box to them. Teams go in and they come out, and they don't know anything about what's going on inside. The place that they enter is a check-in. They'll move to a holding room, which is basically a buffer area. We'd like the teams to be there 15-20 minutes in advance, so that anybody that's running late or anything like that, basically it's a buffer so that we can make sure that when it's time to take a team into the challenge room, that they're ready. Um, the, from the holding room, they will in turn, according to the schedule, go to to the challenge room, do their challenge, finish up. They'll be in the challenge room about 20 minutes, whereupon they will then go to the chill out room. Inside the chill out room is actually pretty important. It gives them a chance to basically debrief either you know after the experience, and then from the chill out room they will exit and go back out to the rest of the world. So it's during that middle part in the challenge room that the team sees the challenge appraisers and the enveloping phases in their progress through IC, that they see that the heroic appraisers are working with them. So let's start out at the very beginning, the check-in. So the check-in is the boundary between the mysterious IC sanctuary where secret things happen that the public sees. The check-in appraiser is in part a gatekeeper. They just let the teams in. What they do with respect to the team, they will have a team will come up to them and say, "Hey, we're the fancy dancy team," and they'll say, "Check-in appraiser, good. I'm glad you made it here." They will give them basically the fancy dancy team will have with them what's called a Declaration of Independence. Now, this is something that's stated in the rules of the road, that a team needs to have a Declaration of Independence for both IC and their central challenge. A third of the teams never fill one out for instant challenge. So check-in appraiser, you'll have some blank copies, and the team can fill that out. You'll also give them something called the promise statement, and this is an oath that basically says, we understand that what we're about to do is a secret and we can't talk about it until after global finals, and if we found out that we do, then bad things will happen to us, so we're going to keep quiet about it. That's basically what the promise is all about. You'll give them the promise statement, and all of that inside a folder that will have basically their name, rank, and etc. on it, and impress upon them that the folder will be, they'll give that to their challenge appraiser when it's picked up, but to hold on to it until then. We do not allow anything that could possibly be used as a recording device inside the challenge rooms. So that means basically just about any kind of electronic device, because all of them have a record function on them. So the best place to stop these things from entering in is at the check-in desk. Usually there is an appraiser and a parent that's dropping them off. Collect all those things up, give them to the parent, and let them worry about stewarding them. If there isn't such a person, well, we'll have some bags or something there that they can all that they'll all get stuffed into, that we can secure, that will that the team can carry through with them with through the process. And finally, all that stuff is going on, is done. Usher the team into the holding room, which ought to be right next to the check-in desk. Finally, what invariably happens is the general public, basically the general public, will walk by the IC desk and think that, oh, this is the check-in desk, and says, oh, there's an information place. Let me go find out what's going on. This is typically grandma comes in to watch young Betty present her performance and is lost. So you will get, the check-in appraiser will get questions from general public, just mistaking them for an information booth. Just answer the questions and move along. There will be some published hard copy schedules and stuff. We want to try to grab a handful of those to hand out to Grandma, looking for Betsy doing her performance, so that they have it. So that's just something to think about, getting first thing in the morning. Inside the holding room, uh, the holding room appraiser will do a second check on the team credentials. Make sure that they're really the wonderful wonderkins from fantastic school, and that they have the right folder and so forth. Get the promise document signed. Again, check for electronics, timers, so forth. Like I say, the team's going to spend 15 to 20 minutes, knock on wood, if everything is going smoothly in the holy room. They can get rowdy, are really excited. Conversely, they can get kind of anxious. Basically the holding room appraiser it's a proctor there to make sure that everybody stays loose and relaxed, but doesn't become too overbearing. A lot of inter-team, that is team-to-team friendships, have been formed in holding rooms over the year. So we like to see the teams interacting with one another while they're waiting there and getting to know one another. And finally, an escort from a challenge room is going to show up looking for a team. The holding room appraiser helps the escort find the correct team. The final appraiser role, heroic appraiser role, is in the chill out room. The chill out room is where teams go after they're done with the challenge. The team can feel really great about themselves after they've done the challenge because they feel like they nailed it, or they did not do well at all and they're down in the dumps about it. So one of the things that the chill out room appraiser may have to deal with is a meltdown or an overly enthusiastic celebration. Now, in having, let me qualify that these are basically the extremes. In the 20 years that I've been doing IC in one form or another, I'm only aware of one meltdown where we actually had to, stick a team in another room so that they could debrief and hug each other and talk to everything and get the team manager in there. I'll have a room for such a case. Most of the time, the team comes in. It's not that big a deal. They just need to talk. After all, they have very little opportunity once they leave IC to openly discuss what they did inside the instant challenge. There is a thing called sticky notes that the challenge team will deliver to the team in the chill out room that they'll want to read over and talk about. However, the sticky notes from IC cannot leave the IC sanctuary, so the appraiser needs to hang on to these things. And finally, we've had times where a team ends up basically they didn't go through IC with a manager. The manager's waiting at the exit for them to come out. The team thinks that that they need to sit and chill out until the manager comes and gets them, and they end up spending half the tournament sitting in the chill out room. So it's after a team's been there for I don't know 20 minutes, half hour, if they're still let's kind of usher them out or something. And last but not least, make sure that they're not taking anything from IC with them, and that they haven't left their glasses or a coat or their lunchbox behind. It's really awkward when somebody has to come back into IC looking for something. It's happened, but would like to prevent it just by simply asking that you got all your stuff with you. Goodbye, thank you. We'll see you next year. Before we start talking about what's going on inside the challenge room, I want to say a few words about scoring, how scoring works. Every team is doing a particular central challenge. Could be the structure challenge, or they call it engineering these days, or the fine arts challenge, and they're in a level, elementary, middle, or senior. So all teams that are in the same central challenge at the same level, for example, scientific, elementary, will see the same instant challenge. What we want to do while we are processing a batch of teams is to make sure that all of the teams in that batch have the same standard in terms of what is considered to be really creative, what is an example of good teamwork, and so forth. In between the batches, it's perfectly fine for you in the room to recalibrate your standard. That's totally fine. The important thing is that we are consistent with every team in the batch, and almost being to the point of being obsessive about it. If it helps you to be consistent in how you treat a team from a scoring perspective, that you stand in the same place when they walk in, or engage in banter with each other before the team starts, that's perfectly fine. However you want to do it inside your room is okay with me. Well, so long as it's appropriate, of course, is okay with me. Just so that you're doing whatever it is so that you are consistent about your scores. How do the scores come up? Well, basically a third of the overall evaluation, the aggregated score that a team gets, comes from instant challenge. I've been aware of teams that have advanced because they really nailed their instant challenge, and I know of teams that have not advanced because they did not do well in instant challenge. This is a part of the competition that has a large influence on advancement for those teams that care about advancing. The scoring is a little complicated. There's a document that I'll be sending you later this week called the Rules of the Road that describe in great detail what the scoring algorithm is. What the team will see at the end of the day is called a scaled score, but we will be giving out what are called raw scores, and on each score sheet, basically the total for the team goes from 0 to 100. That's a max. And then once they go to the score room, they'll get processed and squished and extended and scaled in order to declare the winner. If you're interested in how the scoring algorithm works, I will refer you to the Rules of the Road. When the email where I'll distribute it, I'll mention where the section is. The important thing about the scaling process is that if you have too narrow a range in on a particular scoring element that you have, typically each each challenge will have about five scoring elements, and you will put scores for each of them. If you have a small range for what's called a subjective score, they have absolutely no impact at all at the end. So we want to, the bottom line is that we want to be able to distribute our scores that we put on the sheet so that we have as wide a range as possible per batch. Remember, within the batch, the scores are not absolute against the best of the best of the best, but it's all relative to the individual members in the batch. Now the problem there is that within a batch, you don't see all members of the batch before you start writing down scores. So the word to the wise is leave yourself room both at the top and the bottom so that you can always fit a new team in that will do it. If you think the first team you see in the morning, we've got one batch that's going to have 9 teams in it. If you think that the score for a team is 20 out of 20 for one of the scoring elements on the first team, because what they did was just so fantastic and so original and everything, that's great to give them a 20. But if it turns out that the rest of the teams that you see for the day do exactly the same thing, well, guess what? You got to give all of them a 20 because you score the same behavior the same way for each member of the batch. So let's talk about this subjective versus objective thing. Some of the scoring elements that you'll see are called objective, and what that is basically it is a thing. It's a did a particular criteria get met? For example, was the tower more than 8 inches tall? It either is or it isn't, and this is one of the places where unfortunately the scores aren't spread out. You either give them all of the points or 0 of the points. The other thing is, since it is an absolute, not factual kind of thing, all of the appraisers have to agree on the objective scores. The subjective scores is your score and your score alone. It's not influenced by what any of your peers in the scoring room has. So if you really do think that the flag on top of the tower was very, very creative, you can go ahead and give that thing the max, that action the max score, and that's your decision. I support your decision. Just make sure that it's that you do it consistently without prejudice. What I want you to do is please keep track of your individual scores and keep track of what the team did to motivate them. For those of you that are that take copious notes, this should be part of what you're going to be doing anyway. There have been times in the past where there have been controversies about procedure or whatever that have come up, and notes that the appraisers have taken are helpful to the challenge master. So take your notes. make sure that we can identify whose notes are whose, and I'll collect them at the end of the day, and we'll we'll destroy them when probably within 24 hours. So let's look at a score sheet. So here's a score that has 5 scoring elements. This A, B, C, D, and E is each called a scoring element. And we have on these scoring elements some objective scores, 0 or 10. So if the team had a discernible beginning, middle, and end of their performance, then they get 10 points. If it wasn't, and you agree that there was no middle, they get 0 points. The important thing is, again, is that all of the people writing with score sheets write down the same number in here. Here's a slightly different scoring element. B is a slightly different scoring element. This is, a count. So how many things did they actually produce and use? And notice the operative word here is used. So apparently this thing wanted rhythmic instruments. Well, they could have built, in the however time they had to build it, 10 rhythmic instruments. But if they only used 3 of them, the number that goes in here is a 3. All right, because of the term used. So here again, this is an objective score where it is a non-controversial count of items. The last two, D and E, are purely 100% subjective scores that you as an individual appraiser puts in. Notice that they will go up for basically half of the possible total scores in there. And like I've said, it's totally your decision. So what number you put in these boxes for these things. Number C, scoring element C, is kind of a hybrid. Let's say that basically what's going on here is the only time you would put 0 for creativity of the rhythmic instances is if there was a 0 up above. So if there's no rhythmic instances, there'd be a 0 here. If there is, it doesn't matter if there were 2 or 4 or 9. How creative the particular instance is gets plugged in here as the scoring element. So again, the objective part is all of you agrees that there were no instruments to judge the creativity on, which it almost logically follows from the previous thing. Then everybody has to have 0. Otherwise, everybody puts in their own score down here. So that takes the total number of subjective scores up to 70 out of 100 on a max side. 2 other things that I want to point out here is for almost every single performance problem, there will be one of these scoring elements about a beginning, middle, and end. These are probably the most difficult things to decide upon, particularly with the inexperienced teams that are young, that tend to talk really quietly and mumble with one another. It's hard to identify clearly if there was let's say, an end to the performance. The other thing, which could happen with a very experienced, particularly a team that's particularly good at doing performance-oriented ICs, is that uh, the, the beginning, middle, and end might not be in that order. They might do it chronologically backwards. They'll give you the end, they'll do the middle, and then finish with the beginning. So long as there's distinct components that satisfy this is the important thing. Their order does not matter. Um, and finally, just a technical thing is what boxes are you really supposed to be filling in? Well, yeah, unless technology completely fails on the day of the tournament, we will be using, the score room will be using a programmatic scoring program. So we just have to fill in, fill in the, the boxes for these. This box down here, which is not emboldened, it will, you don't have to worry about that. The number here on the number of instruments, that's the important thing. The scoring program will do the simple arithmetic for you. So basically, having the program in our then eliminates the need for doing arithmetic in various places. And it's amazing the number of times that actual arithmetic errors have happened inside the score room just because of the fact that we're under some time pressure to do things. If there is a technology failure and we have to start doing these things by hand, I will certainly notify you and review to make sure that that everything is being filled out correctly. I will take a look at the scoring sheets before they go up to the score room to make sure that everything is filled in the right place and so on. So there's not to worry about. But the important thing, the takeaway is the bold colored boxes are the ones that you want to fill out. So there is, we're saying is, well, gee, Casey, you say, I've never gone off and evaluated whether something is creative or not, and any of these things. Well, the challenge writers do build you a rubric that you can choose to employ, and it gives a nice breakdown on how you might want to do your scores. As far as I'm concerned, I think the only time that I ever used the rubric myself was my first experience, my first year doing IC, and then after that, I kind of developed my own my own approach to evaluating things. But what is nice about the rubrics is each scoring element that is on the score sheet will have a suggested way of how you go about doing the putting down your scores. If it helps you, great, use the rubric. There's also one for teamwork. The one thing that I do want to say about the teamwork side is some of the really high quality kinds of teamwork that you will see in a team. It's not as observable that these things make these items may make you think of. You swear that that the team is just communicating using mental telepathy. It's just remarkable how well they work together, depend on each other, and trust each other. So that's just one of the things that I want to point out about it is just because there's one person who is asking questions, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily he's limiting the participation of others. It's just the way that the team finds that they work most efficiently. So it's up to you to judge whether or not that's in fact what's going on. The other thing that I want to point out about these two rubrics is there's nothing in, no examples in here that talk about being cute or being friendly. You know, it's always a temptation to give somebody some high scores because they're just adorable. It's also a very it's very easy to fall into the trap of giving somebody basically they tried hard score for what they're doing. If, you know, as I said at the beginning, we give a team as many points as you can on these scoring elements, but no more than they deserve. It's important just in the sense of fairness to the team, to the overall team, and the way the scaling and the scoring algorithm works, that you can skew the results by either giving out pity points or adorability points. Sticky notes. I mentioned sticky notes before. It has become a DI tradition, if you will, starting out in the central challenge, or sometimes called team challenge, where the appraisers would write out on a post-it note and plop it on the raw score sheet, a sticky note that says, "Oh, you know, I really liked the way your car navigated the maze," or, you know, something like that. And it has invaded instant challenge, or at least in the state of Washington, it's invaded it's invaded instant challenge. We do sticky notes a little bit differently than the central challenges, since we want to write the stickies that are relevant to the challenge. We don't want anything escaping instant challenge that will give somebody that hasn't been through it a hint of what the challenge is. So the stickies don't leave the chill out room with the team. In moving teams back and forth, what we end up doing is, typically when the challenge is over, the person that we call the escort is taking the team down to the chill out room. The rest of the appraiser team is writing their stickies. The escort comes back, collects the stickies, and then does an about face and runs the sticky notes back down to the team. Whoever you choose as escort is going to get a lot of mileage. There are guidelines, and I'm going to email the sticky note guidelines out later this week, that's oriented towards the people that are in the central challenge, about how to do sticky notes. One of the things that we have the luxury is we can be a little more direct and do some constructive criticism. The whole chill out room and the sticky note things seems like it is just a lot of overhead. I disliked it for a long time and was looking for a reason to remove them from our process. But after a tournament 3-4 years ago, I actually went out and I found teams, and I had a discussion with them, and I asked them about the chill out room, and I asked them about the sticky notes, and I was I was surprised at the responses that I got back, and I was surprised at how strong the opinions were. Basically, it was, yes, the chill out room is important. We can basically talk about what we did. We use it for what we did. And the other thing was, please don't take those sticky notes away, even if we see them for just a few minutes. Uh, it gives us the kind of feedback that we need. And please tell me how I can do better on with the sticky notes. So now I'm a believer. We do sticky notes, and we get it. We get it to the team, because we want the teams to get better. We want them to to feel good about their process and understand how things went for them. So over and there is yet another level besides elementary, middle, and senior level. It's called the Rising Stars. These are for the little kids that are just really want to get into and start doing DI. It's like kindergarten, in some cases pre-kindergarten up to about second grade, that come in and have their own DI tournament day. We treat them differently. We don't we don't scour them. That should mean we don't score them. We don't make them do the promise. This is the one case where one parent can come in, per kid on the team can come in and observe. All of the appraisers can come in. They can watch. It's basically, we want them to have the IC experience. We've got a challenge that is age appropriate. And basically, the appraisers in the room, you basically go through most of the IC process. Read them the challenge, tell them to go, keep the timer, keep time, those various points, and basically congratulate the parents. Interact with the parents and let them know, isn't this a great program? Can't you wait till to do this again next year, so that, and looking forward to being at a competitive level, so on. Like I said before, we want serial participants. We want these rising stars back, and we want their first experience to be a great one. So there is between now and the tournament date is March 2nd, so we only have a couple of weeks. There are some things that I need you to do. And I will be sending email reminders about this. First of all is your team conflicts. If you end up as a challenge room appraiser, it's just awkward and inappropriate all the way around for you to be appraising a team that you have a vested interest as a parent, an aunt, or next door neighbor to. So every team has a distinct team number. Please find out what that is and tell me what the team number is. Some of you may even have multiple teams that you have a conflict with. Get me those team numbers. If you really can't find the team number, I can probably figure it out if I get the team manager, the name of the team, the central challenge that they're in, and the level that they're on. That's usually enough for me to narrow things down. In addition to having you sitting through this video, I will email you the PowerPoint that we're using. I will be sending you other more detailed kinds of things. Dig into those as little or as most as you can. There will be job descriptions that I will send out for each appraiser role. Please, those are the only ones that I would really appreciate that you read it as well. On the tournament day, that will be March 2nd, uh, it's really important that you be on time. We will have that first hour before the tournament starts, and probably the first 45 minutes to an hour after the tournament starts. Life is like drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot that we need to get done, and not a whole lot of time to get it done in. Uh, you know, part of it is being on time, and again, part of it is having done your some of the pre-tournament kind of reading and studying that I'll be sending out to you. When you arrive, there will be a appraiser's lounge. This will be where you'll go to lunch, but also at the lounge area there will be a blue vest that you put on, which people in vest are tournament officials. So you can bring your blue vest and then come to the IC area. Well, there'll be signs up that'll point out where IC is. There will be signs on, if you are check in, holding, or chill out. Your locations will be obvious from signage that we have in the IC area. If you're a challenge appraiser, there will be a sign on a door that identifies the door. Once you get together, I want the challenge rooms to be basically self-organizing. I'll name the head appraiser. All of the other roles, I would like you guys to agree upon yourself, so that you're doing the thing that you're the most comfortable with. Yes, between batches you can switch rules. I'm perfectly happy with that. But the important thing is that you read the challenge, you discuss it. Even there will be some spare materials there. Take some time and actually try to solve the problem. Just so you kind of get a feeling for where are the teams going to have problems, what kind of questions do you anticipate, what are the things to look for, and then basically just, again, discuss, communicate these things, and make sure that everybody in the challenge room has the same idea about what you're doing. I'll be around that whole time to field questions and so forth. You will get an appraiser packet. The day of the challenge, there will be basically, if there's, say, 4 appraisers in a room, there will be 4 packets, and there will be some obscure looking code on it, like AB32. Pick one of those, your AB32, appraiser AB32, for that day. This is for to accommodate a requirement that the scoring that the score program needs. You all need a distinct ID. So pick one. Pick your little area. There'll be an area where you'll have a you can grab a table, and you can spread out that table, and you can read through things and do stuff. Inside that packet, time permitting, I will write up a comment. I titled them Casey's comments about the problem, where I try to solve most of these problems myself before I put them out there, and I will give you my assessment of the problems and problems where you might you might encounter. I would appreciate it that you don't read my my write-up comments until after you have looked at the challenge material itself and formed your own opinion. I want you to be independent appraisers, not drones. Before each challenge, you want to make sure we will have basically move desks and chairs around, and the requirements for furniture and permit stuff will be there. I'll have Ziploc bags with disposable materials for the challenge there. You just need to set up the room with those materials. Be sure that the materials are set up exactly the same way for each team that's coming in. There will be a sign on the door: enter, do not enter. The person that is the escort will flip will flip it to do not enter. Run down to the holding room, get the team, engage a little banter with them on the way back to the IC room, and then do introductions all the way around in the room. Last time we confirmed the team name, ID, make sure that the promise has been signed. One more time, we do the whole thing with the cell phones and timing things. And then we read the welcome statement, which is, welcome to Instant Challenge. Today you'll be doing blah blah blah. The team manager one team manager over the age of 18 may escort the team to the challenge room. There will be a place off to the side where the team where the team manager can observe. There will also, not all of the team members are required to observe or participate in the challenge. They may be just observers. And will provide a place for them to sit. The observer, a team member that wants to be an observer makes that decision at check-in, not until after. They're known. Yeah, that they know they're an observer when they walk in the room. During the challenge, all right. So we've got two pieces of paper that have the challenge written out. We need to we give them those challenges, and then we read them. We read the challenge. There is one role that's called the timer, and that person says begin now and starts the timer. Again, the teams themselves can't have watches, their own timers, nothing. The other important thing is the team may not ask any questions about the challenge until after the timer says time begins. One of the role is head appraisers. The head appraiser. It's advisable, a guideline which I strongly encourage, that the head appraiser answers any questions that come up. If there's a lot of questions, other people can do it. Just make sure that as much as possible there is just one person answering questions. That way we've got a better chance for the answers to be consistent from team to team. An important point is that despite the clarity and all that question answering that goes on about these challenges, that a team can go off on total wrong track about what's going on. If it's clear that the team is working under a misconception, then make an attempt to clarify the action without. And the tricky part is you don't give them a predisposed solution in doing so. I've got some written guidelines on how to do this, but it's basically we want to verbally say something to them like, remember that you need to construct your tower inside the taped square, basically don't make them spend time. Time is valuable in here during this time. Searching the written statement for something. Sometimes it is appropriate for you as the appraiser having become intimately familiar with the problem and how it's written, to actually read a sentence or two of the thing to the team. That's usually enough just to get, uh, get them on track again. Uh, I've never seen a team manager engage in interference. But I have heard cases where it has happened. It's very rare. If just keep an eye on the team manager. If it looks like they might be doing something that could be construed as interference, first thing is just somebody go stand in front of them. If it's pretty rare, say something to them. If not, note if what they did, get a hold of me, and we will at that time do an interference deduction. Like I say, very rare, hardly ever happens, but if it does happen, that's how you need to handle it. And it goes without saying is we want this to be a safe environment. Um, we don't want kids poking sharp objects at one another, or trying to hurdle a desk chair or anything like that in the course of solving a problem. So just intervene in the case of safety risks. After each challenge, it's time to ship everybody back to the ship the team to the chill out room. On their way out, remind them about the promise. Uh, uh, Congratulate them for being at the tournament and attempting what they've attempted to do, whether they did it well or they didn't do it well. Make sure that they're not carrying any remnants from the challenge. No souvenirs. Fill out your score suits, and then any of them is disposable materials. There'll be a waste basket or a trash bag or something like that. Basically, just clean things out. Get your material. Basically, get the room back to a pristine state. Really important is to do this. Make sure that we flip this do not enter to an enter. I'll be coming around and collecting the score sheet or the folders with the score sheets from time to time, and that's how I know to come in and do that, gather those things up. Also, if there's any late breaking news or any adjustments that need to happen, that's when I'll come in and update you. And finally, I like to come in once or twice during the day and just do a how are things going kind of conversation, just to make sure that there aren't any issues. Finally, you'll come to the end of the day. We'll get to the last team. So the end of day has its own little set of tricky points. First of all, we want to make sure that we've gotten all of our scores to the score room. So bug me about has it have we gotten everything turned in. We will we want to basically pick up the room and restore it to its original configuration. Put the desks where they were when the kids and the teachers left on Friday. We will send you pictures of what the room looked like before we tear it apart Friday night. If there are any of the special awards, there are 3 special awards that we can give out. That we make that we can do, and I want to mention that these awards are for something that are really extraordinary. it is there can be years when none of these are awarded. But if you do see something that's just incredibly creative or incredibly innovative with respect to the other teams in the batch or even the other teams in the entire things, uh, whichever is appropriate, Renaissance or Da Vinci, we can nominate those. There's a lot of opportunities for Spirit of DI, basically the miscongeniality of DI awards. Those are the ones that we see the most often. You do the write up, the nomination write up uh, for those awards after everybody's gone and after we're done processing things. And lastly, I want to make sure that I can contact you immediately after the tournament. If I am going to need to do, and I mean specifically a cell phone number. I have cell phone numbers for just about everybody. I'm going to send that list around in email, and if your cell number is either wrong or you want me to use a different one, please do a little r, reply to me with the updated information. The reason for this is if there's any questions that come up in the score room and you've left, or uh, any kind of other issue, that I just want to check and make sure that we're doing the right thing for the team and for the batch. I might want to have a discussion and see what your perspective is. One of the issues is at the end of the day, while we're midway through these various processes, I will be going to a couple of end-of-day meetings that is convened by the tournament director. So I may not be around when while this is going on, which is just another reason why I'll get you my cell phone number. I'm not going to put my cell phone number on something that's going to be exposed to the entire internet. I will email it to you. So you can get in touch with me if I happen to be at called away in any of these things. I would appreciate it if you stayed on site until all of the scores have been processed by the score room. I will stay on top of this and will contact you some way or another. What we will probably do is have some kind of a sign in the IC area that says which room and which which room is released and which ones still need to stick around, if we can make that work. There's a bunch of there's a gazillion other little details. There's this thing of deductions. I mentioned it earlier. The two places that we could see deductions are is interference from an observer, or perhaps a sportsmanship deduction. I've never had to levy a deduction in IC, but if it's warranted, we will. I know the process, so we'll work through it. Try to anticipate anything that could come in, but there's always going to be a problem. If there is, I'm the troubleshooter. Find me if you can't, you're not comfortable with the way that you're deciding to solve it. Remember, this is problem solving on the clock, on demand. So, I can support anything reasonable that's going on. Silly hats. A lot of people that appraise like to have some kind of silly hat of one sort or another. I really go off the ledge. It's usually a Seattle Mariners hat with with something on it or something like that. But you can go wild, channel your inner soupy sales, whatever. Uh, there will be a lot of grown-ups with silly hats. I try to make Instant Challenge better every year. Uh, I will solicit feedback afterwards on how we could have done things better. The fact that we're going into this without any live training, there's got to be, I'm sure there'll be all kinds of opportunity for how we could have done this differently. Please don't be shy about sending me the feedback, or if you're more comfortable, you can send it to Sarah, and she can scrub it and send it to me if you want to be anonymous. Last but not least, we do have a state tournament at the end of March, and we always need IC appraisers at it. Uh, think very strongly about going doing this again. At the end of the month in Kennewick at the state tournament. Again, we're going to be doing things on March 2nd. We got a lot of teams, some 65 of them. Every single team is going to go through Instant Challenge. I'd like to see you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 7 in the morning. Plan on being there till as late as 4. Watch your email for any changes and adjustments. You're getting plenty of opportunity, you'll see email from me a couple of weeks between now and the tournament. If you have any additional questions, email me. I will send you my cell phone number. Call me. Just let me know. I want this to be as great an experience for you as for the kids, and I want you to be confident in what you're doing is the right thing to be doing. And I am very confident that you will be, and I'm very confident that we'll have a really great tournament. Thank you very much.